What if your worst enemy didn't just ruin your life, but became you? An FBI agent, a criminal mastermind, and a face-swapping experiment that turns a hunt for justice into a nightmare. One man is trapped in a high-security prison, while the other steals his job, his family, and his identity. But here's the real question. If no one believed you, how would you fight to take your life back? The year is 1991. Archer and his young son, Michael, are enjoying a peaceful ride on a carousel. Unbeknownst to them, a notorious criminal, Castor, is setting up with a suppressed rifle from a hidden vantage point. As soon as he gets a clear shot, he pulls the trigger. The bullet rips through Archer's back and continues forward, striking Michael in the head. Both father and son collapse. Archer, in agony, clings to his dying child, while Castor, expecting only to eliminate Archer, is left stunned by the unintended tragedy. 6 years later, Archer has risen to lead the FBI's Los Angeles division, but his mission remains unchanged: track down and bring Castor to justice. Now a known extremist, Castor operates under a new disguise, posing as a minister to infiltrate the Los Angeles Convention Center. His objective? Planting and activating a devastating bomb set to detonate within days. Meanwhile, at FBI headquarters, Archer is alerted that Castor's brother, Pollux, has just chartered a private jet. Knowing Pollux never flies without his sibling, Archer wastes no time. He orders Tito to get an undercover agent on board before takeoff. At the airstrip, Pollux meets with Castor and boards the jet. The FBI agent, disguised as a flight attendant, watches closely. As the engines roar to life, the pilot suddenly notices an approaching truck on the runway. Simultaneously, Pollux spots several police cruisers and a helicopter closing in. The undercover agent makes her move, drawing a weapon on Castor, but Pollux swiftly throws a briefcase at her, knocking the weapon loose before launching a brutal attack. Castor, unfazed by the chaos, forces the pilot to take off. But Archer is in pursuit, driving straight at the plane. For a split second, it seems like a head-on collision is inevitable, but Archer veers off at the last moment. In the next instant, Castor shoves the FBI agent out of the aircraft and fires, eliminating her. Determined, Archer halts his truck and leaps into a nearby helicopter, ramming it into the plane's fuselage. Castor retaliates by firing at the chopper, forcing Archer to take countermeasures. He unloads on the left engine, causing a fiery explosion. Realizing the situation is spiraling out of control, Castor unalived the pilot and takes the controls himself. But before he can regain control, the plane barrels into a hangar, erupting in a catastrophic crash. A chaotic firefight ensues between the FBI and Castor's men. Agents fall in the crossfire, but they press forward. Archer strategically hit a water pipe, forcing Castor and Pollux to separate. The division allows the FBI to capture Pollux. Despite his brother's pleas for help, Castor abandons him, retreating deeper into the hangar with Archer close behind. Their fight is relentless, each anticipating the other's moves. When another agent steps into Castor's line of fire, Archer warns him, but it's too late. Castor takes the aim. Furious, Archer retaliates. The battle intensifies, and both men run out of ammo simultaneously. They scramble to reload, the tension thick in the air. A final exchange ensues, ending with Archer catching Castor off guard. Cornered, Castor taunts Archer about the bomb, expecting a reaction. But Archer remains skeptical, assuming it's a bluff. Then, Castor shifts gears, making crude remarks about Archer's daughter. He reaches for his weapon, only to find it empty. In a desperate last-ditch move, he pulls a hidden sharp object and lunges. Archer reacts instantly, kicking the sharp object from his grip and sending him flying into an active turbine. Castor is launched across the hangar, slamming into a ventilation grate before collapsing. Though victorious, Archer returns home to a strained family. His daughter, Jamie, struggles with her identity, frequently getting into trouble. His wife, Eve, has grown distant due to his relentless pursuit of Castor. With the case seemingly over, Archer vows to take a desk job and focus on his family. The next day, he is met with applause at the FBI office, but he reminds everyone to honor their fallen colleagues. Just as he declares the case closed on his computer, agents Tito and Miller rush in with a discovery. Pollux's briefcase contained a mysterious disc. When they insert it, an animated sequence plays before revealing the schematics of a biological bomb. Castor wasn't bluffing. The countdown is still active. The urgency escalates. Pollux refuses to talk unless he speaks to Castor directly. With no other leads, Miller takes Archer to the Walsh Institute, a cutting-edge medical facility. There, to Archer's horror, he discovers Castor is still alive, barely. Miller confirms it by pressing a lit cigarette against Castor's skin, watching as he flinches. Dr. Walsh, the Institute's director, presents a radical solution, surgically altering Archer's face and body to assume Castor's identity. The goal? Infiltrate a high-security prison, gain Pollux's trust, and extract the bomb's location. Archer is skeptical. The idea seems impossible. But Walsh demonstrates advanced medical technology, a machine actively reconstructing an injured agent's earlobe. The transformation would not be permanent, Walsh assures him. Archer's body would be subtly modified, his voice digitally adjusted, and a morphogenetic mask would be placed over his skull. The interior would retain Archer's natural structure, ensuring he feels no difference. Still, Archer rejects the plan, determined to find another way. He tries interrogating Castor's criminal associates, but quickly loses his patience. One suspect is pushed to the brink, another soils himself in fear. Archer then confronts Castor's girlfriend, Sasha, who insists she hasn't seen him in years. Frustrated, he moves on to her brother, Dietrich, who provokes Archer by mocking Michael's death. Enraged, Archer slams Dietrich to the ground, holding a fire weapon to his eye until he confesses. The bomb is set to detonate in just 1 week. Left with no choice, Archer agrees to the surgery. But he wants to tell his boss and family. Miller forbids it. This mission is entirely off the books. That night, Archer stops by his home for one final goodbye. He assures Eve he'll return but offers no details. She's furious, feeling betrayed by his broken promise of leaving fieldwork behind. Later, at the Walsh Institute, Archer hands Tito his wedding ring for safekeeping. Before undergoing the radical surgery, Archer makes one final request. Dr. Walsh must ensure that the bullet scar on his chest is restored once the mission is over. That scar is a painful reminder of the day he lost Michael, and he refuses to let go of it. With that promise secured, the procedure begins. Dr. Walsh and his team work meticulously, peeling away faces with surgical precision. Archer's is preserved for safekeeping, while Castor's is carefully grafted onto his body. Meanwhile, Castor is left in a horrific state, his face removed, exposing raw muscle and nerve endings. Days later, Archer regains consciousness. As the bandages are removed, he catches a glimpse of himself in a mirror and is immediately overwhelmed. Staring back at him is the face of the man he despises the most. Panic sets in, and in a desperate attempt to rid himself of the sight, he grabs a coat hanger, trying to smash the reflection. Miller and Tito rush in, administering a sedative to calm him down. Once composed, Archer notices something odd. His voice hasn't changed. Dr. Walsh quickly corrects this by implanting a microchip in his larynx, perfectly replicating Castor's voice. The transformation is complete. Soon after, Archer is escorted by guards to a waiting helicopter. Blindfolded for security reasons, he remains unaware of his surroundings until the blindfold is removed. When it finally is, he finds himself in a dimly lit room, surrounded by watchful guards. The prison's warden, Walton, explains the grim reality. Archer, now presumed to be Castor, belongs to this facility. His movements will be controlled by magnetic boots, which can lock him in place at any moment. As he's taken to the prison cafeteria, eyes fixate on him. Among the crowd, he spots Pollux. But before he can approach, he's ambushed by Dubov, an old adversary of the real Castor, who immediately launches a brutal attack. Dubov's blows land hard, but Archer, realizing that playing the role means embracing the madness, fights back with calculated ferocity. The fight ends when Walton immobilizes him with the boots and uses a stun weapon to subdue both men. Meanwhile, back at the Walsh Institute, the Real Castor regains consciousness. Disoriented and in searing pain, he rips off his bandages, only to discover the nightmarish truth. His face is gone. Staggering to the edge of the room, he sees Archer's preserved face, floating in a jar. Rage boils within him. Summoning his loyal henchmen, he orders them to take action. They storm the facility, abducting Walsh and his staff. Helpless, Walsh is forced into an operating room where Castor, filled with pure malice, demands his face back. At the prison, Archer finally earns Pollux' trust and extracts the vital information he needs, the location of the bomb. But just as he begins plotting his next move, a guard informs him that he has a visitor. When he enters the meeting room, his world shatters. Sitting before him is Castor, wearing Archer's real face. A wicked grin spreads across his stolen features as he tosses a newspaper onto the table. The headline tells a horrific story. The Walsh Institute has been burned to the ground, with Walsh and his team among the casualties. In that instant, Archer envisions the gruesome act: Walsh, Miller, and Tito bound and gagged, doused in gasoline before being set alight by Castor's men. Smirking, Castor twists the sharp object further. He now wears Archer's wedding ring and has erased all traces of the truth. There is no one left who knows Archer's real identity. His new plan? Assume Archer's life, take over his job, and even get close to Eve in ways that make Archer's blood boil. Desperate, Archer lunges at him, but the guards restrain him. Castor walks away, laughing. Castor, now masquerading as Archer, arrives at his stolen home. Initially, he struggles with the address, but seeing Eve outside helps him locate it. After she leaves for her hospital shift, he strolls through the house, exploring every detail. In the bedroom, he discovers Eve's diary, revealing an intimate truth: she and the real Archer haven't been close in months. Then, music catches his ear. Following the sound, he finds Jamie in her room, casually smoking a cigarette. She glares at him, annoyed by the intrusion. When she moves to slam the door, Castor forces his way in, plucks the cigarette from her fingers, and takes a slow drag. The unsettling sight leaves Jamie speechless. Back in prison, Archer faces yet another nightmare. Pollux is being released. Thanks to a deal brokered by Castor, Pollux walks free, escorted straight to FBI headquarters, where his brother, now playing the hero, treats him to an extravagant meal. The shift in Archer's behavior raises eyebrows. His colleagues are taken aback when he dismisses condolences for Tito's death and strikes a deal with a known criminal. In private, Castor reminds Pollux of their plan. Pollux must confess the bomb's location so that Archer can disarm it and be hailed as a citywide hero. Pollux complies. Soon, authorities storm the convention center, evacuating civilians. Castor watches as bomb squad technicians struggle with the device, unable to bypass the security measures. With just over a minute remaining, Castor dismisses them, steps in, and effortlessly deactivates the bomb. As planned, he emerges as a hero, with Archer watching helplessly from his prison cell. Archer knows he has only one option: escape. He discreetly gathers intel, learning that the only way to remove the magnetic boots is to be taken to the clinic for electroshock treatment. An idea forms. Spotting a guard with a pack of cigarettes, Archer approaches, demanding one. When denied, he punches the officer, triggering an all-out brawl. Amid the chaos, he manages to snatch a cigarette. Dragged to the clinic, he finds Dubov already undergoing shock treatment for an earlier fight. Once Dubov is taken away, Archer is restrained in the chair. Warden Walton taunts him before lighting a cigarette. Archer seizes the moment. He provokes Dubov by mentioning his family, sending Dubov into a violent rage. As the guards rush to contain him, Archer burns through his restraints with a cigarette, freeing himself. He strikes down his captors, stealing a weapon and opening fire on approaching guards. An elevator opens, revealing more officers, but Archer and Dubov shove a stretcher into them, knocking them back. Archer then hurls a sulfuric acid bottle overhead and shoots it midair, triggering a fiery explosion. As alarms blare and the prison descends into an all-out riot, Archer and Dubov fight their way to the control room. Archer attempts to override the security system, while Dubov holds off the guards. When Dubov is shot and falls from the catwalk, Archer desperately tries to pull him up, but his grip slips.
Dubov plummets to his death.
Walton fires at Archer, but before he can take another shot, a horde of prisoners overwhelm him. Archer reaches the rooftop and is met with an impossible sight. The prison is an offshore oil platform, surrounded by nothing but open sea. Suddenly, a helicopter emerges, opening fire. Archer dashes for cover behind oil barrels, but stray bullets ignite a fire near his feet. He kicks off his burning socks and makes a split-second decision. His only chance is the water. As the chopper closes in, Archer leaps from the platform into the ocean. The armed man continues firing, but Archer vanishes beneath the waves. Seeing no signs of movement, the pilots assume he's dead and retreat. Eve is taken aback when she realizes her husband has completely forgotten about Michael's birthday. Suspicious and unsettled, she insists that he visit Michael's grave. Castor, now living as Archer, reluctantly obliges, putting on a somber act at the cemetery. Back at FBI headquarters, Castor receives alarming news. Archer has escaped from prison, but no body has been recovered. Wasting no time, he orders an all-out manhunt. Meanwhile, Archer, after an exhausting swim to shore, steals a car from a valet service and heads straight to the hospital where Eve works. From the car phone, he makes a desperate attempt to warn her about Castor's deception. However, his altered voice makes Eve dismiss the call as a cruel prank, and she hangs up. Frustrated, Archer tries the FBI office next, but the call is rerouted directly to Castor. Realizing his mistake, Archer quickly disconnects before he's traced. With law enforcement on high alert, he has no choice but to stay low. Spotting a police cruiser nearby, he ducks into an alleyway and rethinks his approach. Determined to find allies, Archer turns to Dietrich, an old associate of Castor's. Expecting a wild night, Dietrich welcomes him without question, introducing him to a crowd of criminals and escorts. As a sign of loyalty, he hands Archer Castor's signature twin fire weapon. Archer, exhausted, gulps down a drink without realizing it has been spiked. The effects hit fast, his vision blurs, his body weakens, and panic takes hold. Stumbling into the bathroom, he grips the sink, staring at his unfamiliar reflection. In a moment of despair, he raises his fire weapon to the mirror. Before he can collect himself, Sasha storms in, slaps him hard, and knocks him unconscious. Meanwhile, Castor, disguised as Archer, is having a heated phone argument with Pollux when something outside catches his attention. Through the window, he sees Jamie's boyfriend forcing himself on her in a parked car. Without hesitation, Castor storms outside, smashes the window with his foot, yanks the boy out, and delivers a brutal beating. Slamming the terrified boy against the roof, he demands an apology before letting him flee. Jamie, stunned by her father's uncharacteristic aggression, watches as Castor hands her a sharp object. He coldly instructs her, if anyone ever tries to hurt her, pierce them in the thigh and twist. Jamie is speechless. Back at Dietrich's place, Archer awakens groggy and disoriented. Sasha, now softer in demeanor, is by his side. In his delirium, he accidentally calls her Eve. Realizing his mistake, he instinctively reaches for his fire weapon. Sasha, however, is undeterred and presses closer, misinterpreting his hesitation. Across the street, Pollux, having observed everything, immediately informs Castor. Within minutes, an FBI strike team is deployed to the location. Meanwhile, Sasha reveals a heartbreaking truth. Her son, Adam, is in the house, and Castor is his father. Seeing the boy triggers painful memories of Michael, and in a moment of deep emotion, Archer hugs him tightly, mistakenly calling him by his late son's name. Sasha, confused and protective, gently pulls Adam away. Then, chaos erupts. A smoke grenade shatters through the bedroom window, followed by an onslaught of bullets. Archer reacts instantly, shielding Sasha and Adam as the room fills with fire. Dietrich and his men grab their weapons and fire back. Bullets rain down from all directions. The FBI breaches the apartment, storming the halls in an intense shootout. Archer, knowing Adam is in danger, snatches the boy's headset and places it over his ears to muffle the carnage. The firefight escalates. A rogue agent spots Adam and takes aim, but Archer shoves the boy to safety just in time. With no other option, he hands Adam to Sasha, instructing her to escape. She sprints for the lobby, only to be intercepted by an agent. Without hesitation, she kicks him aside and keeps running. Archer is forced to fight his way through. Among the attacking agents, he recognizes a friend from the FBI. For a brief second, hesitation flickers between them. To protect his cover, Archer pretends to unalive him by firing at the floor, ensuring his survival. Then, Castor arrives. Locking eyes with Archer, he raises his weapon, but before he can pull the trigger, a noise distracts him, causing him to fire by accident. The bullet strikes Sasha. Dietrich leaps in front of her, taking a fatal hit to the neck. His last words urge Sasha to run. By the time Archer reaches him, Dietrich is already gone. Fueled by rage, he grabs Dietrich's weapon and faces off against Castor. A brutal fight ensues, culminating in both men firing through the same mirror, shattering the glass between them. Archer is hit but keeps fighting. Suddenly, Pollux appears, attempting to flee via the rooftop. Archer swings onto a crane cable and slams into him, sending him crashing through a skylight. Castor arrives just in time to witness his brother's lifeless body. Overcome with grief, he collapses. A nearby agent, confused by his emotional outburst, questions why he's mourning a known terrorist. Without hesitation, Castor fired the agent in the face. The following morning, Castor's boss confronts him about the previous night's disastrous operation. Mid-argument, the man clutches his chest, struggling to breathe. Castor, seizing the opportunity, leans in and whispers his real identity before delivering a fatal blow to his heart. Moments later, he calmly calls his secretary, reporting the incident as a heart attack. Meanwhile, Archer makes his way home. Eve, upon seeing him, is horrified. He pleads with her, explaining the face swap, but she remains skeptical. Desperate to prove his identity, he urges her to check their blood types. His and Castor's are different. That night, while Castor sleeps, Eve secretly takes a blood sample and rushes to the hospital for confirmation. When the results come back, she is stunned by the truth. At that moment, Archer arrives at the hospital, wounded and in need of help. Eve, still uncertain, pulls a fire weapon on him. To reassure her, Archer recounts intimate details of their past, memories only the real Archer would know. Finally, she believes him. As she tends to his wounds, Eve informs him that the next day, a funeral is scheduled for his late boss. At the funeral, Castor's plan unravels. Archer appears, confronting him directly. But Castor has a final trick. His men emerge, holding Eve hostage. Suddenly, Sasha arrives, dragging Jamie into the standoff. Fire weapons are drawn from all sides, and a vicious shootout erupts. Sasha is fatally wounded protecting Archer. With her dying breath, she begs him to ensure Adam doesn't follow in Castor's footsteps. The battle between Archer and Castor escalates. Fists and bullets fly in equal measure. At a critical moment, Jamie, unaware of the truth, picks up a fire weapon and fired at Archer, thinking she's protecting her father. The distraction allows Castor to break free. Seizing Jamie, he drags his tongue across her face in a sickening taunt until she pierced him in the leg, using the exact technique he had taught her. Wounded but enraged, Castor shoots 2 agents before escaping. Stealing a speedboat, he flees toward open water. Archer, refusing to let him get away, takes another boat and gives chase. As they speed through the water, Castor shoots an explosive barrel, igniting a massive fireball behind them. The Coast Guard intervenes, but Castor eliminates them all, sending their boat crashing. The chase ends with both boats colliding, sending them crashing onto the shore. Their final battle is brutal. bare fists raw fury. As Castor savagely tries to disfigure Archer's face, Archer reaches for a harpoon fire weapon. With one final shot, the fight is over. Castor is dead. With Castor gone, Eve explains everything to the FBI. Archer undergoes surgery, regaining his face, his voice, his identity. This time, he makes a new request: leave the bullet scar behind. With Castor dead, he can finally move forward. Returning home, Archer embraces his family, apologizing for the years he spent consumed by revenge. But there is one last gesture. He introduces them to Adam, whom they will now raise as their own. When your worst enemy steals your life, how far would you go to take it back? What would you do in Archer's place? Fight from the shadows or embrace the madness to survive? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another thrilling deep dive. And if you want more insane stories like this, check out the videos on your screen now. See you in the next one.